Hey guys, it's Will here, and tonight I'm going to be talking about the stratagems in the new Space Marine Codex. So as of recording this, it's been out about 3 or 4 days now, and so I've had some time to read through it and starting to get an idea of what's going to be good and what's going to be great. On the whole, this looks like an amazing book, and this is just talking about the baseline Space Marine Codex, not even looking at the various expansions that they're going to be bringing out for all the different chapters. So this is a very exciting time to be a Space Marine player. And the thing I want to focus on tonight was stratagems. One of the big weaknesses, I think, of the original Codex from this edition was that the stratagems just weren't up to scratch with what the other armies had available to them, quite frankly. There's a few useful ones like Auspex Scan and Hellfire Shells, but really they weren't on par with the things that Eldar and Orcs and Chaos have available to them. So yeah, that's one of the things GW appear to have really worked on in this book, is bringing out some new stratagems. They now have, from what I can tell, even just off the baseline codex, the most stratagems of any army, and there's loads of exciting new ones here. They've not just tweaked a few, in fact they've actually dropped a few of the old ones entirely, kept some of the best ones, but put in a whole load of new ones. Originally was going to do a top 5 of the 5 best stratagems in this edition for Space Marines, but there was just too many in there. So in the end I've gone for 10, and I've not tried to focus too much on putting them in a precise top 10 order, but rather I've focused on the different cool things you can do with them, and the situations when they would come in handy. So, in not much order, here are the best 10 new stratagems in the Space Marine Codex. So, starting off, we got Bolt Storm. Now, at first, this one sounds utterly amazing, but it does have some limitations. So, this is a 2CP stratagem, and you use it on an intercessor squad that's firing with their auto bolt rifles. So this is the bolt rifle that got buffed, so it's now getting 3 shots at range 24, but this stratagem can only be used inside half range, so you're getting 3 shots inside range 12 at strength 4, but the key thing is they're automatically hitting. So if you've got a 10-man squad of this, and they all get within 12 inches, you're getting 30 automatic hits. Now, slight limitations of this are obviously that you've got a squad that's already got reasonably good ballistic skill. They're already hitting on 3s, so it's not, and when you add in the other ways to get rerolls to hit, actually it's not gaining you that many extra hits, and these are just basic strength 4, no AP, unless tactical doctrine's in place, 1 damage shots, and you have to get pretty close. So although it certainly has its uses, I don't think it's one to be building an army around, but certainly an interesting stratagem. Next up, we've got Vengeance of the Machine Spirit. So this is more of a sort of a, when things are going wrong, how to get yourself a little bit of back in the game. So when a Land Raider, Repulsor or Storm Raven in your army is destroyed, for 2CP, you can either make it automatically explode, or shoot with one of its ranged weapons, or fight with one of its melee weapons, as if it were the fight phase or the shooting phase respectively. And you use the top damage bracket for that, so you are firing at full BS. Now I think the shooting, occasionally that might be useful, but it's only one of its weapons. I think the real strength is going to come with these machine-spirited vehicles when they blow up, because these guys have a 6-inch blast that does D6 mortal wounds. So if you get him close, particularly against armies that like to take out big targets in combat rather than at range, looking at you Orcs, and certainly Tyranids as well, then yeah, oh, you've got lots of your units quite near to my Land Raider. Oh, my Land Raider's blown up. Right, 2CP, all of those units take D6 mortal wounds. Obviously, there's risks because it can hit your own guys, but having seen what happens when an Orc battle wagon has gone up in the middle of a Deathwatch gunline before, this can certainly be expected to do some serious damage. I mean, if there's a nearby character, there's a character with 5 wounds, which is the normal amount for a decent character. He's going to be dead on a 5-up, and if not dead, then he's going to be seriously crippled. You know, there's some serious damage you can do here, but you know, you want to get your Land Raiders, your Repulsors, your Storm Ravens close to do it, so you know it won't always come up. Then one that I think you're going to see a lot of, because it's only 1 CP and it's very easy to use, is Big Guns Never Tire. So essentially this allows a vehicle to ignore the penalty for moving and firing with heavy weapons. So the actual wording is, if I can just find it here, used in the shooting phase when a vehicle is chosen to shoot. Until the end of the phase, you don't suffer the penalty for moving, firing heavy weapons. So there are some limitations to this. Obviously, the machine-spirited vehicles don't really need this, because Land Raiders and Repulsors and the like can already move and fire at full effectiveness. But this is going to be great if you kind of need to readjust that Predator or Vindicator to get a better shot on, particularly a Vindicator to get it into range. But the one unit I can see really loving this is Dreadnoughts. Any flavour of Dreadnought, but particularly the Redemptor, because a Dreadnought with a fist, you're going to want it to keep moving forward, but that's going to be compromising your shooting, so you have to choose. But now that Redemptor Dreadnought moves 6 inches forward, play this for 1 CP, it can still fire at full ballistic skill, and yeah, that's a very useful stratagem to have. Then we got Skilled Rider. Now, I had to look this up because I thought it feels like White Scars should have had access to this before, but apparently they didn't. This is completely new. And it's not just for White Scars, it's for all Space Marine bikes and land speeder units as well, which is nice. So basically, in the movement phase, if that select one of either a bike unit or a land speeder unit, and if they move, they get a 4+ invuln save against range weapons until their next movement phase. If you advance, it goes up to a 3-up. Again, that's against ranged weapons only, so you know this isn't going to save you if you're planning to charge into combat with these guys and use them to tie something up. But if you're using them as a mobile fire base, which I think is how they should be used, particularly for large units of bikes, this could add some real resilience. You know, bikes have a higher toughness anyway, so people are going to be firing bigger weapons at them, more likely to have enough AP to actually get through their 3+ armour anyway. So yeah, that 4+ invuln could make bikes very survivable. It is 2 CP, so you're not necessarily going to want to use it all the time, but if you're running a lot of bikes, this could be the stratagem for you. Then we've got Adaptive Strategies. Now this is one that works with the new combat doctrines. So basically at the start of the game you're always in Devastator Doctrine, so all your heavy weapons and grenades get -1 additional AP. You can at any point once per turn choose to stroll that onto Tactical, so the benefit of AP comes to assault weapons and rapid fire weapons, and then you can move it along again to Assault Doctrine, so it becomes pistols and melee weapons that are getting the benefit. And you don't have to do that every turn. You can hold on Devastator Doctrine for 2 turns and hold on Tactical Doctrine for 2 turns, or you can change it so by turn 3 you are in Assault Doctrine. But what this does is it allows you to go back 1, so if you're on Assault you can go to Tactical, if you're Tactical you can go to Devastator. Now you can only do this once per game, but I can see scenarios whereby, say late in the game you've gone on to Assault Doctrine because you've got you guys in a fight and that's been the way to go, but now a lot of the melee units and the fighting really close quarters has happened and you need to get a buff to your medium range shooting, your assault weapons and your bolt guns, your rapid fire weapons. You can play this and yeah, go back 1 on that. Going back to Devastator, Possibly less likely, because a lot of your heaviest weapons by the later stages of the battle, a good opponent will have tried to neutralise them anyway, but, you know, still certainly usable. Then we've got, we're halfway through this list now, Steady Advance. So this is a really nice bonus for your bolt gun guys. Basically, in the shooting phase, you can choose for a unit to shoot with, an infantry unit, and until the end of the phase, for the purposes of the bolter discipline rule, the unit is treated as having remained stationary. So the bolter discipline rule is that thing that came out in the White Dwarf update and online, and for most infantry what it means is if they stand still, they can fire their rapid fire weapons twice, even if they are not within 12 inches. Bikes, Terminators and Centurions get this even if they move, as do Dreadnoughts, but for infantry they'd have to stay still or get within 12 inches. So the big unit I can see benefiting from this is bolt rifle interceptors. Intercessors. So they've already got 30-inch range, but now this means they can still step forward and still fire twice. So that's going to be 20 shots rather than 10, assuming they are outside of 15 inches. Obviously, once they're in 15 inches, it doesn't matter, they're getting double shots anyway. But yeah, they're, I think, going to be the big winners with those bolt rifles, which are really tasty when you remember that they already have -1 AP, and then they've got the Tactical Doctrine on top of that, so they'll get -2 AP if Tactical Doctrine's active, and then there's various ways to get rerolls with them, and this just, yeah, is putting more damage output from earlier in the game. And we're going to see that later that stacks really nicely with a rapid fire stratagem as well, and some really nasty shenanigans. Other units that could benefit from that, Infiltrators, Incursors, they have rapid fire bolt weapons as well. So do Tactical Marines, but I don't think you take Tactical Marines for what the bolters are doing. You take Tactical Marines for the special weapons, so can't see it being used too much on those. Oh, and Stern Guard. Stern Guard could be quite tasty with this as well. Then we've got Fury of the First. So speaking of veteran Space Marines, but these are veterans in Terminator armour this time. For 1 CP, you can add 1 to the hit rolls of a Terminator unit for a phase. And it doesn't specify, it says any phase. So you could use it in your shooting phase, you could use it in your assault phase, you could use it in your opponent's assault phase, you could actually use it in your opponent's charge phase, but I wouldn't really recommend it because even with the amount of shots they put out, Overwatch isn't going to do a great deal. So this, plus the points reductions for Terminators, and the general benefits that Space Marines have got, and the Bolter Discipline rule might finally start to make a Stormbolter Power Fist Terminator actually worth his points, because it's now meaning your Terminator, even at 24-inch range on the move, is chucking out 4 shots with his Stormbolter, probably getting some way to re-roll the ones to hit, and now at +1 to hit as well. And then when he gets up close and personal, he's getting an extra attack with his Power Fist because of the new combat rule, which has just slipped my mind. It is called... That's really bad. I should know this because it's one of the cool new things Space Marine's got. The one where they get +1 attack in the first round of combat now, and Shock Assault. So, you know, Terminators are benefiting from that. They're benefiting from Bolter Discipline, and now they're also getting, for 1 CP, you can add 1 to the hit rolls. Particularly nice, I think, with the Power Fists, though, because those Power Fists they get the -1 to hit, but now they're getting the extra attack from Shock Assault. Plus you can play this, they can get round to normal hit rolls, and then some chapters and loadouts have ways of getting re-rolls anyway, and that's about Salamanders obviously can re-roll an extra hit roll and a wound roll, or you can just have a captain nearby them to give them re-rolls to hit, re-roll ones to hit. You know, there's finally, I think, this stratagem could make Terminators usable. Not broken, not an auto take, but certainly an option that you might actually want to consider. Then, from an old unit to a new unit, target sighted. So this is 3 CP, and like Bolt Storm, it's not strictly new. It was in the Vigilus book, but it's the first time it's been in the main Codex. And also it has changed a bit, not just because you don't have to be veteran intercessors to use it, but also because of the buff that the Stalker Pattern Bolt Rifles got. So for 3 CP, you can have your intercessors with Stalker Bolt Rifles essentially be snipers. So they can ignore the targeting restrictions for characters, and any rolls of a 6 to wound inflict a mortal wound in addition to other damage. So yeah, you're going to be able to pick out characters, and the Stalker Bolt Rifle is now a 2 damage, -2 AP weapon, -3 AP in if Devastator Doctrine's active, which it will be on the first turn. So you're suddenly looking at guys who are jumping out 10 shots, probably re-rolling the ones to hit because you'll keep a captain or a similar nearby. Can pop out characters, -3 AP, any 6s to wound do a mortal wound, and do 2 damage for every hit that goes through as well. I did some maths on this. Even without any support, you're statistically quite likely to kill things like Orc Weird Boys, Librarians, etc. with a squad of 10. Now it's going to struggle against things with better invuln saves, so you know, your Storm Shield captains, regular captains, Farseers on jet bikes, Demon Princes, things that are a bit tougher. It might not kill them outright, but it could be a nice way to finish off one that's already wounded, particularly like a Psyker that's done a couple of mortal wounds to himself anyway and made himself a lot more vulnerable. But for some of those key support characters that are throwing out like support bubbles, psychic powers, like Weird Boys with the jump, that's a great spell. A lot of Orc players really rely on their Weird Boy. If you can pop your Weird Boy out, even inside a custom force field, this should still do the job. 10 of these guys with this stratagem, bye-bye Weird Boy, no more to jump, gives you an extra turn or 2 to thin down the horde of Orcs. And with all the extra shooting you're getting in here now, that's going to be more of a manageable task anyway. So yeah, expensive, but when the right target presents itself, potentially game-changing. Then we've got Gravidic Amplification. So this is one that brings back a unit that those of us who've played Space Marines for a while probably have, but haven't used since about 2016. It's those Grav Centurions or Grav Devastators. So Grav Cannon with Grav Amp models in units that have been affected by this stratagem reroll wounds, which is nice, and they reroll damage. Now Grav Amp is a 4-shot, Grav Cannon with Grav Amp is 4 shots, strength 5, -3 AP for 1 damage. So why reroll the damage? Well, against targets, I think it's that have a 3+ save or greater, it becomes D3 damage. Essentially, targets with a greater weight and mass have more potential to be damaged by this because of the way gravity weapons work. So yeah, you're actually going to have to dust off those Grav Centurions and give them a try, because yeah, the Grav Cannons are coming back, and this is only 1 CP, so should find the spare points to test it out. Don't know if it's going to be game-changing yet, but certainly going to make a big bonus to those units. And, Centurions also have a Hurricane Bolter, which benefits from Bolter Discipline. And this isn't limited to Centurions, so Devastators as well. Although I think there are probably better ways to run Devastators than with Grav, because they, Grav, you still need to be within 24, so you probably want to keep your Devastators at the back with missiles or las cannons. Certainly a good stratagem to use, I think, and I'm looking forward to dusting off my Grav Centurions and seeing how we get on. Now finally, we've got probably my top pick, and that's Rapid Fire. So this is another one of the Vigilus ones. It's 2 CP, and it's intercessor squads with bolt rifles. They change their weapons type for the turn or for the phase to rapid fire 2. That means if their rapid fire weapons are getting to double the shot output, they're going to be popping out 4 shots per guy. So, not a difficult scenario to imagine. You've got your 10 intercessors, don't have to be veterans, just 10 intercessors. They are 36 inches away from the enemy, or just a smidgen under. They step forward 6 inches, you pop steady advance, so they get so they can still fire as if they were stationary, so bolter disciplines pop in. You then pop this on them, and they are chucking out 40 shots, hitting on 3s, re-rolling 1s, strength 4, minus 1 or 2 AP, depending on which doctrine you've got active. Did some maths on this, and against a lot of infantry, this becomes overkill on squad sizes. So I'm thinking, I did have the maths worked out, and I've lost the bit where I've written it down. Here we go. So against Space Marine equivalents, assuming you've got reroll 1s to hit and reroll 1s to wound in tactical doctrine, you are doing 13 wounds after saves to Marine equivalents. So you don't actually need all that benefit. You will cut through 10 Marines in a single volley with this. You're doing 9.9 wounds to Terminator equivalents. And against things like Orc Boys, Tau Fire Warriors, you're doing massive damage. I mean, Orc Boys are a great target for this because they're actually one of the few units where you don't risk just wasting shots to overkill just due to their sheer numbers. But yeah, this stratagem, really nice. But wait, there's more. If you are Imperial Fists or Crimson Fists, then all those 6s that you're going to roll going to get you an extra hit, or you could take the what's it called, custom chapter of your own devising with the bolter fusillade and reroll 1s to hit, so you don't even have to keep your captain around. So, or you could get +1 to hit with the appropriate chaplain buff. There's so much you can do with this, and gives the potential for intercessor units to blast huge numbers of infantry off the table, which I think is really what intercessors should be able to do. I don't actually like that they dropped the points on Primaris Marines, because dropping the points on something to make it more appealing just makes it easier to take a horde of it. And Primaris Marines I don't think should be a horde. I think they should be elite. You know, you pay a lot of points for them, but they should have the output to do that. So this, I think, is the sort of thing to do to make Marines better. You know, don't make them cheaper, make them individually better. Maybe requiring a little bit more skill and forward planning to play, more rewarding for experienced players, yeah, but don't cut the costs anymore on Marines. But yeah, that is my 10 favourite stratagem picks from the new book. They're certainly not the only good picks in there, and some of them aren't as good as others, but yeah, there were 10 I picked out. Let me know in the comments what you think. What's your favourite new stratagem from the Marine book, and how are you planning to use it with your Space Marine army? Anyway, thanks a lot for watching, and stay tuned, because I'm hoping to have some more videos up later this week. See you later. Bye.